Well, it sounds like our players are ready, so why don't we head down to our virtual feature match area? And there you see on the left-hand side, it's Aaron Moller playing Abzan Vito, sitting at 2-1 thus far. Going to be taking on Lucas Twist, our first look majors at Teamer Adventures. I would love to just get your broad opinion on this archetype. How do you see it lining up with the format at large right now?
I'm not going to lie. I played a good chunk of Teamer Adventures, both stockless and experimenting with various different ways to build it. And overall, I'm a little underimpressed. Super capable of some extremely powerful draws. Turn 2, Lucky Clover. Turn 3, use Beanstalk Giant's Adventure, and then interact with your opponent with either Brazen Borrower or Bone Crusher Giant, and then pull way ahead with Escape to the Wilds or Fae of Wishes. But sometimes you're kind of just playing some mopey creatures and trying to just get up a card or two. I'd rather be playing Uro.
Yeah, I thought you had a really interesting take on the deck. You were playing actually Sphinx of Foresight in the version I saw, very focused on maximizing those really good draws. Like you said, there are modes where Teamer Adventures feels like the actual most powerful thing you can do in the format. And that's one of the reasons I think everyone was so high on it when we were in our formative stages, is that its ceiling is just tremendously, tremendously high. But a lot of times it's just operating at a lower rate. And I think you're right. Players have gravitated towards the consistency of cards like Uro, Nissa, Hydroid Krasis.
I will say I like Lucas's list. Usually there's only a couple flex slots in the stock Teamer Adventures deck, but Lucas is playing 2 copies of Nissa Who Shakes the World. A card we've talked about over and over again already in this broadcast, but super powerful. Kind of acts like a way to mitigate Fae of Wishes clunkiness. You can, you have so much mana that you can actually just wish for something powerful and play that turn. In addition to just giving you huge bursts of mana to let you do whatever. But speaking of Nissa, we actually see that on Aaron's side. So, like you said, instead of just taking the super combo approach to Vito, it looks like Aaron is just kind of trying to play a normal game.
Yeah, and I really like that approach. You need to take advantage of the power points of the format. Aaron very clearly doing so. Players just spent the early turns building up some mana, acceleration on the part of Aaron with both Paradise Druid and Llanowar Visionary. Meanwhile, on Lucas's side, pretty slow start, just a 1-1 into a Lovestruck Beast. Not a whole lot going on thus far. We did just see Escape to the Wilds. That's going to amp the mana up a little bit. Looks like Edgewall Innkeeper is at the ready now, should Lucas want to deploy. We're getting to the point where Teamer Adventures is going to have access to some very, very powerful turns, but there's a Revival Revenge sitting in Aaron's hand. There's some extra mana available with both Paradise Druid, Llanowar Visionary, and that Nissa. So kind of some out-of-nowhere kill potential, perhaps, if Aaron is able to find the namesake card here.
Yeah, I mean, the presence of Nissa on the battlefield means that Aaron can just present Vito plus Revenge in the same turn. It's super easy to have 9 mana when you have Nissa on the battlefield. So, I mean, that's certainly on Lucas's mind. It's like, I have this Aether Gust. Do I need to deal with this Nissa? Because that doesn't break up the combo in any way.
Unsurprisingly, Aaron was able to add Nissa to a deck and make it more impressive to me. I am not shocked.
Yep, I agree.
Going to be a double block here from Aaron. So that's kind of taking away that plan of the big, huge mana turn, but did effectively answer the battlefield of Lucas. But Lucas has a big trump here. Really, really punishes Aaron for his choice. Aether Gust on Nissa.
Some nice timing in the draw step. I will Aether Gust your Nissa so that you can neither activate the Nissa nor draw it for your draw step. We see that play quite a bit, but always good operations. And instead, Aaron just has to settle for Vraska.
Vraska pretty strong in this matchup, quite frankly. One of the reasons I think you could see more of this card if Teamer Adventures really reclaims some metagame share. I think Vraska's a nice trump to that.
Yep, 2 of the best cards in Teamer Adventures, Edgewall Innkeeper and Lucky Clover, are, get killed by the Abrupt Decay mode of Vraska Golgari Queen. That said, just Escape to the Wilds and a huge mana advantage. I think Aaron's, just pulling ahead on both cards and mana, so I think it's going to be difficult even with Nissa on top of Aaron's deck.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lucas definitely got the setup going here. Has Lucky Clover at the ready. That's going to allow for 2 wishes. I like 3 wishes personally, but you take what you can get.
Yeah, it looks like Lucas is going to lose that negate to the Escape to the Wilds condition. but this Fey of Wishes should be able to preemptively cover this Nissa. And then it's just going to be basically Vraska.
Yeah, Disdainful Stroke was the first grab here. Second grab, going to be Ether Gust maybe? Negate. A lot of options. All of them seem very good against what Aaron is getting up to.
I do want to call out Aaron has 2 copies of Treacherous Blessing in the deck, so that's also a nice little synergy with Vraska. You can cash in your draw 3 and then sacrifice it to draw a card.
Very cool. Very cool take on the archetype here for Aaron. So Lucas knows only apt to get 1 turn with that Clover, trying to get a bunch of value out of it. Could have done something like Ether Gust on the Vraska, but didn't feel like it was necessary to protect Clover. Honestly, he's gotten a pretty huge payoff here.
Yeah, I think the presence of that second copy of Escape to the Wilds in Lucas's hand means that they feel pretty comfortable playing a card advantage game, and so they just want to answer Aaron's threats as effectively as possible.
Sure, makes sense to me. Front side of Revival, very interesting in this deck, actually. I was just going to say, Llanowar Visionary plus Revival, I think, is something we haven't seen. Kind of unsurprisingly. I guess you don't expect to see a bunch of these cards going around. But there's a nice little synergy there. Way to get a little extra value out of your graveyard.
Yeah, like, these aren't super game-winning plays, but to justify the inclusion of a, quote-unquote narrow combo piece like Revenge in your deck, you need some backdoor ways to utilize it. So, sure, like, reviving a Llanowar Visionary isn't the most exciting thing you can do in Standard, but it's still an effective way to get up a card.
Now I really want to play Revival with Eternal Witness. What is it about Eternal Witness that makes me want to play so many cards with it?
Because cards changing from zone to zone is really fun.
That's true. Can't argue with that.
Just a clean, honest 2-for-1.
I think that Lucas is signed up for a pretty fun turn here himself. Access to either Edgewall Innkeeper and some adventure creatures, or Escape to the Wilds, Disdainful Stroke at the ready.
And Lucas is already basically in the phase of the game where he might just be interested in setting up, I'm going to go get my fling with my Fey of Wishes and then play Beanstalk Giant and kill you.
Sure.
From an Abzan deck, there's not really a way to break that up because removal spells don't stop it. So, lots of different powerful paths. You can develop with Edgewall Innkeeper and your adventure creatures. You could cast Escape to the Wilds and leave up Disdainful Stroke. Looks like Lucas is settling for just generate some velocity with my adventure creatures.
That makes sense to me. You get to really control the pace of the game with Temur Adventures. You get to decide how hard to push, and the best Temur Adventure players are so good at knowing exactly what line to take, when to pressure on combo kills, when to just ride out small amounts of card advantage. It's a really, really versatile deck.
Yeah, and super difficult to play.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One of the highest difficulty ratings in all of Standard, I would say. Maybe the highest.
I agree with that.
So Escape to the Wild is going to be the play here. And we're still going to get to hold Disdainful Stroke up. Gotta love it. Strong position here for Lucas.
Those 2 Lucky Clovers plus Bone Crusher Giant means that Aaron's just in danger of getting burned out.
Yeah, nice flexibility again in plans from this Temur Adventures deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aaron has some powerful cards, Nissa Who Shakes the World, and a Murder Strider, but none of it really lines up well with what Lucas is presenting. Can't really Good.
Let me tell you what ultimately took me off of Temur Adventures as being one of the top tier decks in this format. The more I played, I was playing the Sultai side, not the Temur Adventures side, but the more I played on the Sultai side, the more I realized that I actually felt like I could keep up with even the end game of Temur Adventures. I felt like I could go over the top of that. In Aaron's case, there isn't the typical setup we see, the Hydroid Krasis, Uro, Nissa type thing. So instead, you're hyper reliant on this combo as a way to just break up the massive advantages that Temur Adventures can build over time. Because your traditional mid-range strategy, it's not going to get the job done. It's just not going to be good enough. Right. So you really need to find a way to set up your combo. And then there reaches a point too where if you're being effectively pressured, combo actually doesn't do anything anymore. So that can be real problematic as well. But I appreciate that if you're going to do something mid-range like what Aaron's attempting, you do have to have that out as a way to just steal a game out of nowhere.
Right. Just playing traditional 1-for-1s is never going to be enough to deal with the end game of Bay of Wishes plus copying it, or just casting a bunch of Escape to the Wilds or generating a bunch of cards with Edgewall Innkeeper. Totally agree with that. I don't know. I haven't played a ton of the Sultai versus Temur Adventures matchup, so I can't speak too intelligently to how that matchup goes, but I definitely agree with you that, Sultai has the tools to play a long game. It always seemed to me like the biggest threat from Temur Adventures is just setting up this inevitability of playing my Beanstalk Giant and maybe even expansion it for double duty.
Right. Talked with Jerry on the podcast this week about Temur Adventures. That's what he's been playing lately, and he feels very advantaged against Sultai. So I wanted him to go into that a little bit because, like I said, it hadn't been my experience. And he's like, yeah, I just play Nissa, Hydroid, Krasis, and Uro in my Temur Adventures deck. And I go,
okay. Well,
that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Right. If you have comparable tools, then maybe you just have more engines, and that's the correct way to build Temur. I certainly agree that folks that just automatically assume that 58 of the 60 is locked in Temur Adventures are probably not giving it enough credit of how flexible you can build the deck.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's not to discredit the quote-unquote original build of Temur Adventures. I think it was a really brilliant piece of deck building, and because it was so intricate and had such a well-developed toolbox, I think people default to that mode, and they say this has to be the way to do it. But like you mentioned, many, many other ways to go. And here we see a concession from Aaron. Those Bone Crusher Giants being doubled up by Lucky Clover is going to be enough to get the scoop. And we're going to move on to game 2, hoping to see a little bit more Veto action. Of course, Veto, one of those key cards in Core Set 2021. You can order that right now. Head over to starcitygames.com/M21. Get your orders. And you need those conspicuous snoops if you're going to be playing any goblins in Legacy. What do you think about Muxus's impact on all the goblins deck throughout the world?
Man, Muxus is a hell of a card.
That is a magic card if you've ever seen one. But there you see Elder Gargaroth. That card is also seen play in some surprising spots. I'm seeing it creep into Pioneer, even older formats than that. I've seen occasional Gargaroths in Legacy because it's a very unique card. So a lot of potential still with that one, I think.
Yeah, I have been super impressed with Elder Gargaroth. It's a lot more impact than I anticipated. It kind of feels like a green Baneslayer Angel, but it almost acts differently. Like, there's actually a big difference between getting something in combat, period, and actually having to deal first strike damage.
Right. I would agree with that. I've been very impressed with the card. Do a little sideboarding now for both players. Why don't you talk about what you like in both these spots? Obviously, we can mostly skip Temur Adventures because there's not a whole lot going on there. But on Aaron's side, I'm kind of disappointed by the options here, too.
Yeah, Lucas mostly just gets to use sideboarding as a couple-minute break to go get, like a glass of water or whatever.
Yeah, a little timeout.
Yeah, it doesn't have to worry about sideboarding too much. Yeah, I agree with you. Aaron has pretty underwhelming cards in this matchup. Looks like the best options are basically just get a little bit more aggressive with some copies of Questing Beast. Maybe those Seasoned Howlblades came in. Duress kind of stinks against Temur Adventure. Sure, you can take their Clovers or their Nissa or the Escape to the Wilds, but it doesn't break up the actual adventure engine of Edgewall Innkeeper plus creatures.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to season Hollowblade either just because of the predominance of Lovestruck Beast. Like, I think that card gets invalidated a little bit too hard. But I get your point. Like, I understand why you'd want to try and seize some initiative in this matchup because, like we mentioned, going to be hard to out-grind them.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the couple copies of Glass Casket. Probably don't want all three, but just being able to answer, Lovestruck Beast or Bone Crusher Giant, or most importantly, Edgewall Innkeeper is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I could buy that. Well, looks like we are going to get a keep over on Aaron's side. Potential early Basri's Lieutenant, another Core Set 2021 card, which, is starting to show up. We saw it in Mardu Winota, for instance, but I think this card is going to do more throughout its lifespan. It has really impressed me on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think not only is this card a super strong piece of the Winota decks or, Knight strategies, but even more than that, there's tons of other synergies, +1/+1 counters, or just casting this as a generic good card. I think Basri's Lieutenant has a pretty bright future.
Right there with you. Nice little draw off the top here for Lucas. Found the Lucky Clover. Already had the Edgewall Innkeeper, so engine looks pretty good, pretty well set up. We are going to have to play turn 1 Temple. So not just going to curve out here, but still a nice setup. Cry of the Carnarium. That's a sideboard card. Choosing to go that route as opposed to the Glass Casket route. Interesting. It's interesting. You catch the Edgewall Innkeeper. You catch the token side of Lovestruck Beast. Brazen Borrower. I mean, I get it. I think it's maybe a little too thin for me, though.
Yeah, it's hard to get excited about Cry of the Carnarium when you're playing Paradise Druid on turn 2.
Right. All right. Very good point.
Both players' hands are pretty nice. They just kind of need some lands. Lucas critically scryed into a third land, but Aaron's really going to need to draw a third land here to start playing Bozier's Lieutenants and put some pressure on the battlefield.
And it looks like Lucas just going to go ahead, play a tapped land, and make a soldier. Does find that third land. Bozier's Lieutenant going to come down, buff itself up, get a little bigger.
Unfortunately, the presence of Lovestruck Beast means that it's unclear whether Bozier's Lieutenant's even going to be able to pressure Lucas.
Yeah, so we went with a token on Paradise Druid instead. Maybe trying to grow that out of Cry of the Carnarium Rage with the second Bozier's Lieutenant. That seems okay.
Yeah.
You still got a Lovestruck Beast problem, though.
Right. Even if you doubled up counters on the Bozier's Lieutenant, Lovestruck Beast plus the Soldier human token would be a fine double block. So I think going that route is pretty flimsy, and it's especially weak against Brazen Borrower. So this makes sense to me.
Yep. Here's Edgewall Innkeeper. Follow up. Cast Fae of Wishes. Draw a card.
Interesting.
Finds a forest. Yeah, that was a surprising one.
Yeah, Lucas could have gone the route of just, I'm going to extract maximum value from my cards, play Lucky Clover that turn, and then adventure Fae of Wishes down the road. Instead, just choosing to kind of turtle up a little bit, make sure that their life total isn't under a lot of pressure. Still get a card off Edgewall Innkeeper, so it's not like down a card.
No, I see where Lucas is coming from. I think the assessment is that if this game goes long, I can't lose. And therefore, I'm just going to protect my life total and ride this one out.
And honestly, this might be a decent spot for Cry of the Carnarium. This Fae of Wishes is very likely to block one of these 3-power creatures. And then, sure, you're losing your Paradise Druid, but you're killing your opponent's Edgewall Innkeeper.
Yeah, Lucas is having to think here, though. Maybe sniffs this one out.
Yep. Again, the presence of open deck lists, Lucas knows that there are some Cry of the Carnariums. Whether he's going to put Aaron on it, it's hard to tell, but ends up with a double block.
I think that was a read of Cry, and that's why we're seeing that double block. Although you're going to lose that to Cry anyway, so maybe that's not true. You do take care of this token, though, in that scenario, but Exile would have done that anyway, so I don't know. I don't know if there's much advantage to making that block there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just not really sure, what your opponent is capable of, that's still a fine play just to get the Mana Accelerant off the battlefield.
Sure. Yeah, maybe the default safe line, not really playing too much in consideration of the Cry, which, fair. I wasn't sure Cry would come in this matchup. I think that's a really tough read.
And honestly, Aaron looks like they're in a pretty good spot now. So Bozier's Lieutenant number 2 is about to come down, put some more pressure under Lucas. An Aether Gust in Lucas's hand isn't looking too hot. And then if Aaron needs to go to Lovestruck Beast just to get some defense on the battlefield, there's an Elspeth Conquers Death.
Yeah, this has come together nicely for Aaron. You have to question the decision to maybe not get as much value as possible from that Fae of Wishes. Could come back to haunt Lucas. Hard to say.
Yeah,
always tough to make these decisions in the moment.
Lucas definitely was reliant on the Edgewall Innkeeper sticking around, I think, and now kind of
look at this draw.
Oh wow. Okay.
God, Eternal Oketra. It's been a minute since I've seen that one on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean this God saw a little bit of play, but we probably haven't seen it around in the better part of a year now. But still a super powerful card, another card that improves from the removal of Teferi from the format.
Yeah, and Aaron just really going to seize the initiative here, going to go after that Lovestruck Beast. Looks like Lucas is debating Ether Gust on his own beast. Is going to fire it off, put it on top. Big attack coming in from Aaron. Lucas falls to just 9. Is going to be able to produce a bunch of blockers on this turn, though, with that Lucky Clover. 2 soldiers come down. Love Struck Beast follow-up. Cry of the Carnarium off the top. That'll answer those blockers if Lucas chooses. I think you just get on the battlefield, though. Keep pushing the pressure. Get God Eternal Oketra out there.
Yep, I like it. The window is so small once God Eternal Oketra is on the battlefield. Every creature that Aaron plays is going to generate a 4/4 zombie. And, Lucas is low on cards, is missing red mana. There's just a lot against him.
Looks like Aaron's going to go with an attack here from Bosri's Lieutenant and Scavenging Ooze.
I think there's a good chance Lucas will be able to sniff out the cry this time because this looks.
Well, he brought the first one in, right?
Right,
so
right.
Have that info. Yeah, but this is not the best block. Okay, I thought there was a creature for Scavenging Ooze to go after there. I guess not. I guess we're just pushing a little damage attempt, maybe a little semi-bluff there from Aaron. But God Eternal Catcher is going to come down. Nice answer here from Lucas. Brazen Borrower. Going to pop a couple of permanents back to hand, thanks to that Lucky Clover.
I guess the presence of Elspeth Conquers Death, Aaron felt like it was pretty free just to go for that attack.
Of course, good point.
And the +1/+1 counter that's going to end up on the Scavenging Ooze synergizes nice with the Buzzer's Lieutenant, so I think I like that attack more now that I know more of what's going on, but I definitely miss it there wasn't a creature.
Yeah, good point. Lucas now debating zone attack. Not going to make it. Draws Murderous Rider. There is that Elspeth Conquers Death, bringing back Scavenging Ooze, +1/+1 counter.
I mean, that Brazen Borrower was a good pickup. It answered the battlefield in the short term. The problem is Lucas really needs both red mana and Escape to the Wilds to actually start to pull ahead.
Right.
Without an engine piece or something to generate card advantage, there's just not really much going on here.
It really goes back to that Fae of Wishes and its capacity to generate some of the advantages that Lucas so critically needs now. You only really need one piece to get the snowball going in this Teamer Adventures deck, so I am inclined to keep one in reserve to the extent I can at all times. And I think maybe a little bit of an overreach getting out there on the battlefield, protecting the life total early on.
I agree with you. Even if it had come down to, I'm going to copy my Fae of Wishes and pick up a Fable Passage so that I can get my red mana, I think Lucas would be in a lot better shape right now.
Well, it's time for another Cry of the Carnarium. Card's been good. I was surprised to see it come in.
These cries are converting.
Making me a believer.
Shows what we know.
Scavenging Ooze. Getting big. 4/4 thus far. Measly 5 life on the hand of Lucas. No cards in hand. Big follow-up coming here.
Yep. Both under pressure from the Ooze and God Eternal Oketra.
Double Lucky Clover means there's probably some outs here, but missing on that draw step. Not going to get it done, and that means Aaron Moller takes game 2. We're going to head to a decided game 3. Before we do that, let's talk about the Command Chair. Sheldon Menery brings on a bunch of his favorite guests. Comes out all the time, putting out so many episodes of the Command Chair. StarCityGames.com/the Command Chair for more info on that. Playing much Commander these days, Majors?
No.
Okay. I've never played a game, and I'm looking forward.
You've never played a game?
I've never played a game of Commander, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do so, but I'm waiting for the perfect time. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the scenario is, but someone's going to come to me at some point with an offer I can't refuse. They're going to be like, I have this Commander deck for you. It's built around everything you love. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to play my first game of Commander at that point.
Okay. Is this like a thinly veiled plea to the audience to please come up to me with something cool as soon as quarantine's over and I will play Commander with you?
Sure, they could take it that way if they would like. If you want to play Commander with me, give me a reason to.
Nice.
I am interested in the format. It's just not something my general engagement with Magic really allows me or encourages me to explore, right? I have to produce content and I have to stay up to date for both my articles and the podcast and doing coverage. So a lot of my focus on Magic tends to go towards areas where I can convert that knowledge into something I bestow upon my readers. And if I just spend my time playing Commander all the time, I can't really say too much about that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I completely understand. But I am shocked that you have not played one game.
Yeah, it just hasn't come up. I didn't see any huge alterations when we went back to the sideboard there for either player.
No, I did notice Aaron did bring in the Seasoned Hallowblades, did not have the copies of Duress, so I do think they've decided to take a really aggressive slant.
Interesting. Now, they didn't have the Seasoned Hallowblades in Game 2, or you just noticed they were in the deck and not sure whether they were present in Game 2?
I believe they were present in Game 2 as well.
Okay. I was going to make something of the distinction play draw, but apparently that's not at issue here. Combo in hand for Aaron. You see 2 copies of Veto and a Revenge ready to go. Are we going to see it?
I don't know. I mean, I like this hand. Some interaction, some acceleration, and the combo rolled up with mana. Like that's kind of what Aaron wants.
Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. There is an aggressive start on the part of Lucas here. Have Soldier into Lovestruck Beast, so there's going to be a pretty large attack on this turn. But if you look at what Lucas has behind, not really any of the key pieces. You don't see a Clover, you don't see an Innkeeper. Some interactive pieces, you see Brazen Borrower, Ether Gust, but not really the namesake stuff we're looking for from Team Adventures.
It's going to be interesting to see how this game develops. Lucas doesn't have an engine piece. Glass Casket's actually a pretty big pickup there.
Yeah, I think nice little draw.
If Aaron is able to just take a turn off and answer the Lovestruck Beast and preserve his life total, then I think he's actually going to have the time to set up the combo through this Brazen Borrower. But if he takes, a very aggressive stance of, I'm going to try to just kill you next turn with Veto, then I don't think it's going to end well.
Well, we could see both Glass Casket and Llanowar Visionary on this turn, and I think that's the line I really like here.
I like it too. Use your mana efficiently, develop your mana further to try to set up your combo, and remove the key threat.
Looks like Aaron agrees. Going to go ahead, Glass Casket, that Lovestruck Beast.
And we might just see this Brazen Borrower come down from Lucas, bounce the Glass Casket just to further pressure Aaron.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, check this out. I actually like this play.
Yeah, I was just going to say, choosing to pass and leave mana up instead.
I mean, this is going to work out a lot better, I think.
Now with access to Murderous Rider. Should say Swift End spell portion.
Yeah,
Brazen Borrower is going to bounce.
I never know the name of the spell side.
There's a few I know. A few. I don't know all of them. Stomp. Stomp's easy to remember.
Yeah, Stomp's easy to remember.
Granted. The more obscure cards, though, forget about it.
All right, this worked out really well for Aaron.
Murderous Rider going to go ahead and contain the threat from the Lovestruck Beast. Just that 1/1 getting in this turn. Aaron is going to fall to a precarious 9. Brazen Borrower likes that number. Lines up very nicely. With 3 power. Ooh. Glass Casket again. 2 copies now available. A lot of defensive options. Just going to go ahead and fire one out there.
I can respect, I'm not going to have too much pride to cast my spell on a 1/1 token.
Cast that Murderous Rider. Play a tapped land. That instance, I think I like the Llanowar Visionary better. But you understand padding that life total. There is some fear of just like an explosive out of nowhere turn from the Teamer Adventures deck where they start doing Beanstalk Giant nonsense. And also, as we mentioned, Brazen Borrower, 3 points in the air over time. That's going to add up quickly.
Yeah, I think Aaron's recognized, I have my combo rolled up. I just need to make sure I don't die. So, just getting a lifelinker on the battlefield does that because, they know that Brazen Borrower is coming and they're going down to 6 life. So...
Yeah, there's also the problem that there is no combo once your life total gets low, right? That's one of the weaknesses of Veto is that if your life total is too low, it doesn't actually do anything when you combine it with Revenge.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is not just a deterministic, 1-2 punch.
Right. I was thinking of it very much in that fashion. Like, oh, I just play these two cards and win. And so I may as well jam my Llanowar Visionary out there. But it's not quite that simple, unfortunately. I think we're going to see a granted here.
This might be one of those games where Lucas really needs to switch gears. Even though they're putting Aaron under significant pressure with this Brazen Bar, they might just need to start trying to play for card advantage. Maybe pick up this Escape to the Wilds.
Lucas is going to have a little look here.
Oh, I love that copy of Claim the Firstborn. I haven't seen that in a lot of sideboards.
It's a good one. I think that card is very strong in this meta game right now. One of the reasons I like Marcio's deck so much is its ability to play Claim the Firstborn, steal those Hydroid Crasises and get paid on them.
Definitely agree. So
Lucas really having to think here.
Taking a long look.
Yeah. Well, you understand why. This is a key decision.
Yeah. I mean, this is what the game is going to come down to, very likely. So it looks like Lucas has decided, I'm going to play Protect the Queen strategy with this Brazen Bar. Just try to protect it down the finish line.
Tough against Murderous Rider.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out. Just got to deal with this Murderous Rider and the presence of Glass Casket in Aaron's hand. Are you just forced to negate that?
I'll tell you what you can't negate. Veto. Maybe a little bit of a misstep there. Would have liked to do a little additional damage from that Murderous Rider lifelink.
Good point.
There is the Glass Casket. Going to go ahead and put Lucas to the test. Are you going to burn this negate? Lucas really with his back against the wall now.
Yeah, I mean, given the way that Lucas has played so far, I think you just have to commit to your line. So now the question is, what is the second copy of Fae of Wishes going to do?
This one going to have access to a bit more mana on its resolution turn. Really feeling the lack of a strong 1 mana play here. Love to maximize your defensive capabilities, but it's just not quite coming together on the Team Rare Adventures side. And look, this is the game you talked about when we first mentioned Team Rare Adventures, the mopey game where you don't have those engine pieces and you're just relying on suboptimal cards and trying to cobble something together without Lucky Clover, without Edgewall Innkeeper. It's really a Herculean task sometimes.
Right. I mean, that said, like, it might appear like Lucas is losing very badly right now, but
it's close. It's close.
They're only 2 points away. Attack you with Brazen Bar or get playing, that would put you to 2. Obviously, that's not good enough, but this is a really close game.
Yep.
So
I agree with you.
Looks like Red Cat Melee. I thought it was Claim the Firstborn at first.
Yep. So there was that 1 mana option I talked about. Like I said, not the best one, going to cost you a land, but still, cleaning up that veto seems important. We know another veto rolled up, ready to cause some problems.
I think the biggest standout of this game is how weak Aether Gust has been from Lucas's side.
Yeah, just rotting in hand. Not all that many targets. Here is Revival, going to bring back that veto. Aether Gust sobs quietly.
Yeah, that's one of the big disadvantages of Team Rare Adventures. If you go for these tech cards like Aether Gust, you don't really have much of an ability to sideboard them out in matchups that they're bad.
Right. I like this play. Bosri's Lieutenant. I'm assuming we're putting a counter on Murderous Rider. Yep. Pad that life total a little bit.
Yep.
Try and keep yourself safe.
Not only pad the life total, put Lucas under a ton of pressure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's near certainty Lucas won't be able to survive the next turn if you get to untap.
I'm just hoping we see Revenge as the killing blow.
Let's see. What's the draw here? Bone Crusher Giant. Wow, we got real close in this game.
Yeah.
Real close.
Really close. Yeah, I don't really see a path out, though.
No, me neither.
Even if Lucas is able to generate enough blockers to survive, Veto's activation should end the game.
Right. Yeah, there'll be 7 points. Or is it all non-veto creatures, or does veto get lifelink as well?
All creatures you control gain lifelink.
Okay. Yeah, 7 points of lifelinking damage headed the way of Lucas. That would do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this game just came down to Lucas tried to take an aggressive slant, and it was just too difficult to get out from under that Murderous Rider.
One of the problems with playing a matchup that you just lack familiarity in, it's really hard to just craft the perfect line in these scenarios. Absolutely. And, Team Adventure is a very challenging deck to play. You have so many options when basically all of your cards are modal. And, Fey of Wishes is like a, 16 mode card or whatever. Right. Yeah, there's the block. Here is the veto activation. Everyone getting lifelink. And there is the GG, and that means Aaron Moller, Abzan veto, moving to 3-1.